special needs community. And she is also a parent of a child with a disability. So she knows our work perfectly. She's a financial planner, over 25 years of experience working with families with disabilities. And she's the owner of Consolidated Planning Group. So welcome, Allison. Thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you so much for having us back. It's always nice to be here with you, and you guys are doing a great job in the special needs communities all across the state of Texas, and so we're thankful for your organization for sure. So as she said, Allison Schaberg here. I guess I do have some unique hats that I wear. I guess we all do as parents, but so I come to you from Consolidated Planning Group. We are a holistic special needs financial planning firm, and really kind of planning for the future of your loved one with special needs. And there's a lot of ongoing care needs and concerns that happen along the way. And so I come to you also with the parent hat on, mother to 4, and I have 2 that have special needs. I have one that's still a minor, and one that crossed over into adulthood. So as a person, I have navigated all of these challenges and rough waters right with you. And I do this for a living. And so it makes me really happy to come and talk to you and share some of the things that I learned along the way, so that hopefully that you will feel empowered and not feel so overwhelmed by all of these choices and things that you're supposed to know and things like that. So we do have a YouTube channel, and we do a lot of webinars on topics relating to special needs, such as guardianship, trust, basically all the little things that we're going to touch on today. There's probably a whole webinar on that specific topic. So you can check out our YouTube channel and watch those at your leisure. So if you're joining us for the first time today, we're really glad you're here. If you have attended some of our events in the past, we're glad you're back. And as she said, if you'll put your questions in the chat box today, we are going to be getting to as many questions as we can. Today's meeting is being recorded, so you will get an email with the recording and a PDF of the slides that we're going through today, and it'll also have a link for our YouTube channel as well. So having said that, we're going to go ahead and just jump right in. Okay, so we hear a lot of buzzwords on a regular basis, and it's transitioning. And what is transitioning? That's such a broad word when it comes to special needs and planning. We think of transitioning out of the public high school or out of the high school into adulthood, but that transitioning term, when it comes to the special needs and other considerations from a financial perspective and the long range things, there's a lot of things that change when your child turns 18. So it's really, really important, first and foremost, is really to formulate a plan. We've always heard have a plan and work your plan, or people don't plan to fail, they fail to plan. Those are some of the things that we hear. But we really want you to work with a special needs planner to help you formulate your plan. So one of the things that we talk about on a pretty regular basis is, what is the difference between a special needs planner and a regular financial planner? So that's one question. And so basically a special needs planner has all of the licenses that another financial planner or advisor has, but they're specifically nuanced in special needs. There are a lot of, I hate to call them roadblocks, but there are a lot of things that you need to know. And if you don't know these things, you could accidentally cause your child not to be eligible or to lose benefits that they were already eligible for. So your normal financial advisors are not typically nuanced in special needs matters, and so that's why that is important. But why do you need a special needs planner and a special needs attorney? That's another question that we come and get. We also hear often Are you an attorney? And so the basic answer is no, we're not attorneys. So we're the financial side. We're the money. Okay, so the attorneys are the paper, the legal documents, the things that are necessary to be in place. And we're going to talk about some of those things. But we're about the funding. We're about determining what are the future care needs financially, long term, short term while you're alive, long term after you're gone. What are those care needs? So that's kind of some of the differences, and I just wanted to get that out right at the beginning, because there is a lot of questions. We work very closely with the special needs attorneys and make referrals to the appropriate attorney for your specific needs, but they're the ones that are going to handle things like guardianship or special needs trust or redirecting child support to a special needs trust, those types of things. So as you're getting started, what's important is to really gather all the necessary planning documents. And what do those documents really look like? And those are basically all of your statements. These are financial statements, investment statements, 401k, 403b, annuities, life insurance, disability, long-term care, wills, trust, any type of financial documents that you plan to either fund your retirement or fund future care for your child. Those are the necessary documents. And another very important document in your list should be your Social Security statements. Okay, mom and dad's Social Security statements are very important, and we're going to get to that in a little bit. If you don't know, Social Security statements, unless you're over age 60, they don't mail them to you anymore. We used to get them once a year. Some people haven't even noticed that they don't get them. But you can go to ssa.gov and you can create a username and password, and you'll be able to download all of your Social Security statement and information in a PDF. It's a pretty decent website. Do not lose your username and password, because you can get locked out of the system, and that is a frustrating process, and you have to call them and sit on hold or go down there. It's kind of frustrating. So, and we talk about developing a letter of intent, and we do have a webinar completely on this topic. A letter of intent is basically, I call it a family love letter to your loved ones. As parents, whether you're mom or dad, we eat, sleep, and breathe this child. We know what makes them tick. We know what makes them melt down, all the medications that they can take or can't take, allergies, all the names, address, phone numbers of doctors, any schools they've attended, county and state they were born, just diagnostic history, religious preferences. There's just so many things. And these are things that, we just do. It's just second nature. Your mom, your dad, this is what you do. But if you became incapacitated today, or you passed on, does somebody else know all of these things? So that's basically what a letter of intent is so that way someone else, a loved one, a future caregiver, actually knows what your intentions were for your loved one, and hopefully they can pick up that document and not have a lot of questions. And what we've actually even found is that in some households, even the other parent, so maybe one parent is home as the caregiver, the other parent is working, sometimes even that other parent, even though they live in the same household, may not know what you know. So this is just a really important thing to do. We do have a template for a letter of intent, and we have instructions on how to go about filling that out. And if you don't have a letter of intent, just put that on your list of like maybe in the next 60 or 90 days that you can get it done. It's not a one sitting kind of document, and it does have some emotions to it as you're putting all of this stuff down and you're kind of reliving your life as you've gone through these things. So just put that on your radar. We do definitely recommend that you have this in writing, like in a Word document per se, so that way you can update it twice a year or as your situation changes. And basically, we really want you to think about your vision on how you hope things will look for your special needs child, but also as equally as important as how you hope things will look for your own retirement, your own future. We spend all of our lives working. We're working hard and we're saving money and we're saving for the future. This one day I'm going to travel. This one day I'm going to do these things, or whatever your hopes and dreams are. Often as parents, we put our kids' needs over our own. And so what we see is that as caregivers, a lot of our own health declines because we don't have that respite built in or that break or the other help lined up. So really think about yourself, your spouse, and your child and how that looks in that transition program. Veronica, we have a question.
How does the fee structure works when you use consolidated planning group?
Yes. So as far as a fee structure, we have multiple packages that we work with people, and we'll kind of talk about some of the different programs. Kind of just really depends on where you are in your planning process. Some people have done extensive planning and they want us to take over, okay? Other people say, no, I need a plan. I need a plan. I need to make sure that I can retire and stay retired for the rest of my life and have enough money to fund my child's future care. So that's where we'll do a whole retirement plan that includes the special needs plan and all of the other factors, which also includes a Social Security analysis. We have specialized software that takes the mom and dad Social Security statements and can talk to you about when is the best time for you to take it, and how how taking that will impact your disabled adult child or child benefits under a parent's record. So some people need the full service, and then basically what we do is we look at the planning that you've done so far, and then we put a plan together for you, and then basically a quote of what the plan will be. And our hourly fees are $250. So it just depends on where you are along the way. But then thirdly, we have people that simply really just want a Social Security analysis, like take my statements, tell me what to do, what do I need to do, and we can run that for you, and that is just a flat fee of $500. So if people are wanting to do the full service, it just depends on your setup. Everybody's individually, but the Social Security analysis is extremely valuable. So we can talk further about those things, but my heart is as a parent and as a professional in this industry is that people will take the steps that they need to be successful. Because what happens is, again, when you don't plan or you don't have a plan, the ifs in life happen and you're not prepared. And so we really want all of our clients to be prepared for the ifs in life, and our price points are set in such a manner to promote that and promote people being able to take steps that they need to take. Do we have another question?
No, that's it. Another question that we heard a lot is, I don't have a trust fund. I don't have a lot of money. I don't have a lot of savings. Do I still need a financial planner? I know the answer, but I want you to tell them that it's not just the people with money that need this kind of services, right?
Well, yes, and that is true. And we work with people, all across the board, and it's true. We work with high net worth people that do have trust funds, and they're funding care and things like that. But wherever you are along the way, whether you have enough money saved up to fund a special needs trust or you don't, for those folks, there is no hourly fee. So we always do, I should have mentioned this, we always do free consultations. So it costs you nothing to have an initial consultation with us. But so basically what we want to do is we want to make sure, how your child's care will be funded. And we want to make sure that you have the money in the right buckets, baskets, or whatever you call it, blocks in this slide. So that way you don't cause your child to not qualify or to lose qualification for, state or federally funded programs. So a special needs trust is something that is recognized by the Social Security Administration, and basically it is needed. So if an individual has more than $2,000 in their name, you can have more than $2,000, but it has to be in a special needs trust, or otherwise they're going to disqualify from SSI and basically Medicaid. So one way that care is funded is life insurance and assets providing for the special needs trust. So in an example that a person doesn't have tens of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars to fund a special needs trust, that's okay. Other people are building that wealth and building and saving, throughout their lifetime, and people are in different phases of their life and savings. But oftentimes, life insurance is what is used to fund a special needs trust. So basically how that works is that while you're alive, you pay for your child's needs, just like you always have. And in your retirement, you'll continue to do that. But upon your death, you have a life insurance policy that will pay upon your death to the special needs trust to provide care for your special needs child. Is basically how that works. So, so we're able to develop plans for people that can kind of cover some of those needs that maybe they hadn't thought of before. So another place that you can have money that will not be counted against you through the Social Security Administration is an ABLE account. And we're going to talk more about this in the presentation. So let's talk about SSI and Medicaid. So SSI and Medicaid, there is so much confusion between SSI and Medicaid and Social Security, Disability, and Medicare. And these names are so close together and they're very, very confusing. So bottom line is many families their child, even though their child is disabled, does not qualify for SSI and Medicaid prior to the child turning 18. They've been denied, they never go back and apply again, what have you. So prior to the child turning 18, SSI is a means-based test. That means they're checking to see how much assets you have. And the general rule of thumb is this: you can have $2,000 to your name, you can have one house, and you can have one car. So basically, if your child is under 18 and you have more than $2,000 to your name that's not in a special needs trust or an ABLE account, you have more than one car or more than one house or property, then your child is not going to qualify for SSI, even though they are disabled. But what happens, and what is super important if you're taking notes, is to know that when they turn 18, everything changes. So even though they still live in your house, maybe you still claim them on your tax return or what have you, even though you're financially responsible for them, once they turn 18, it's about what do they have in their name? Do they have more than $2,000 in their name? Do they have more than one house or one car? So it is important, if your child is already receiving benefits prior to 18, to know that when they turn 18, there's a redetermination that is necessary. So you do need to schedule that with the Social Security Administration. If your child is turning 18, what you need to know is that it is time to apply again for SSI and Medicaid for that child. The Social Security offices are not meeting face-to-face at this time. They haven't for over a year because of COVID, but they are taking phone appointments. So you can call your local Social Security office and schedule a phone appointment for the month that your child turns 18. It does not have to be the day after their birthday. It can be the month that they turn 18. So if their birthday is in August, then you would get that call scheduled for August. You could schedule it for August 1st. And you may want to call the Social Security Administration. I suggest 3 months in advance. Appointments are backed up, and it could be a long time before you get an appointment. All Social Security offices all across the state are different in how their time frame is. But generally speaking, the local Social Security office that you start at is the one that you're going to stay at. So all you special needs moms out there that know other special needs moms that have already gone down this highway, you might want to do a little homework and ask around at which Social Security office in your area, there's usually multiple ones in bigger areas, does a better job. And I suggest starting with that one, because the ones that are slow and behind are frustrating, and then you get stuck with them. Okay, so moving on to Social Security, Disability, and Medicare. So SSI and Medicaid, SSI, the amount is $794 a month as long as you submit a rent or a fair share agreement. $794 a month. If you don't, I think it's $522 a month, and they get Medicaid. Social Security, Disability, and Medicare, that is a work-based program. It's for the worker, okay? So most of our kids don't have work experience, so basically they don't qualify for Social Security Disability. However, there is a caveat here that if your child's disability started prior to age 22, that basically when you retire or you become disabled, your disabled adult child will be entitled to 50% of your Social Security benefits. So in that example, let's say your Social Security benefit is $3,000 a month at your age 67, at which time your child will qualify for RSDI under your benefit, and your child will start getting $1,500 a month. And after 2 years, they'll be eligible for Medicare. So basically, they'll be dual eligible for Social Security, disability, and SSI and Medicaid, but basically you get the higher benefit. Okay, so you don't, sometimes you get SSI and RSDI, sometimes it's a combination of the both, but basically it just depends on if the RSDI amount is more than $813 a month is one thing, or so more than $813 a month, or if they can like completely switch over to Social Security disability. So SSI is basically the means-based one, and sometimes you can switch over to RSDI, but you also want to maintain your Medicaid eligibility in the state of Texas, because you have to maintain Medicaid eligibility to be eligible or maintain any waivers that you might be getting, like Texas Home Living, Class, Community First Choice, HCS, some of the waivers. And I know a lot of people are on waiting list and have been for a really, really long time. So we've talked about the Special Needs Trust, life insurance, ABLE account, Social Security, disability, Medicare, SSI, and Medicaid. So I know that the Social Security is most confusing to most people. We have whole presentations that are simply about SSI and Medicaid. We have other presentations about can you work while getting these benefits and what not to do if you are working and that kind of thing. One key tip that is super important that you be aware of is that it is very important that your child is not working at the time that they initially apply for SSI and Medicaid. If they are working at the time of their application for SSI and Medicaid, their application will automatically be denied. So that's one thing. The other thing is if you have one penny more than $2,000 in that child's name, they're going to not qualify for the SSI. So what if you do? So what do you do if you have more than $2,000 in the child's name? One is it can be moved to an ABLE account or a Special Needs Trust. Another way is to spend it down. So there's no such thing as hiding money from the Social Security Administration. I mean, you can try, but you're going to get caught. But there are things, I mean, our generally speaking, our children's care needs are much higher than any SSI benefit was ever going to be. So this is everything. This is clothing, medicine, copays for doctors. They need an iPhone. They need a computer for this online learning. Whatever it is, as far as expenses for the benefit of your child, if you need to spend down some money, those are totally good. And you can just keep your receipts and records for that. Veronica, I think we have a few questions. Do you want to bridge those?
I just waiting for you to have a little break. Yes, we have a question. Do you provide in consolidated planning group tax strategies also? Tax strategies.
Yes, and so yes, and we it just depends on kind of where people are, and we do work with a lot of high net worth individuals, and tax strategies are important. An important component of that. And a lot of the money managers that we work with have complete tax teams that we work with.
Do you have an office in Austin so we can meet in person? I'm asking because it's easier to show and review documents and financial records in person.
Yes, so we don't have an office in Austin. We serve families all across the state of Texas, all across the United States, really. And we, ever since COVID and now with COVID rising again, we are doing Zoom meetings. I've got kids with compromised immune systems, and we just can't be too careful. And we just don't, because the population that we work with are families with special needs kids, we're just kind of continuing that path. But what I will tell you is we do a really great job on Zoom, and we do a really great job on sharing folders and secure boxes and things like that. And then we actually go over them. We go over them with you through Zoom, and we share our screen and everything like that. So it goes really well, and we take our time. And so I definitely understand, but like with the Delta variant and things like that, that's kind of how we're meeting at this time. Any other questions?
Will they get RSDI if you have not started drawing on your Social Security at 67?
No. And so that's the key, is that you have to start drawing, whether it's through Social Security disability or your Social Security retirement. So they'll stay on their SSI and Medicaid, and then one or the other parent, okay, turns on their Social Security or becomes disabled, they can be under that parent. It's also important to note that we have step families, and it could be under a stepdad. It could be under a stepmom. It just depends, and you should pick whichever benefit is the highest, because the other person's benefit isn't affected, like mom or dad or stepdad or whatever. So in the example where there is a step family situation, and it can change, like where they, for a while, the child is getting RSDI under one parent, and then the other parent retires and the other parent's benefit is higher, which would increase the benefit for your disabled adult child. And then you can switch that over as well. The biggest key that you have to know and understand is the disability had to start before age 22, and you basically need proof for that. And so what if you have this 23-year-old child and you've never applied for SSI and Medicaid? So the answer is it's still okay. You can still apply, and he can still be considered a disabled adult child under a parent's record. You just have to prove that the disability started prior to age 22, but there's no requirement to apply prior to age 22. Another thing is the annual earnings amount. So $13.10 a month is basically considered the gainful wage, gainful employment by the Social Security Administration. So if a person has basically earned more than $13.10 a month, so if they earn less than $13.10 prior to applying, then and they shouldn't be working when they apply. But if they've had gainful employment of $13.10 more or more a month, then they also may be denied. Okay. So as far as transition planning, when do I need a special needs trust or a guardianship? And so basically, again, a special needs trust is going to preserve future benefit eligibility while providing resources for your special needs child. Guardianship can be applied for 6 months prior to the child turning 18. So you can kind of start that process 6 months in advance. In the state of Texas, we also have partial guardianship. So guardianship takes some rights away. And again, on our YouTube channel, we have all kinds of guardianship talks, so you can learn all about it. There is also partial guardianship, where maybe you have rights for medical decisions, or maybe you have rights on housing. But a partial guardianship, an individual could still have a driver's license. They could still have the right to vote, where full guardianship, they would not have that ability. Also in the state of Texas is a supported decision-making agreement, which you've probably heard about in the school. So that's another option. And then there's also power of attorney and healthcare power of attorney. So for families that have a loved one that has a disability that hasn't caused intellectual disabilities, maybe their body doesn't cooperate with them, but they are of sound mind, they don't have intellectual disabilities. Sometimes a power of attorney and a healthcare power of attorney is the only kind of document that you need. But be aware that some people want to go the route of power of attorney or healthcare power of attorney, but at any point the individual over 18 could revoke the power of attorney or healthcare power of attorney. So if you have a kid with behavior issues or adversarial at times or things like that, that might not be a good route for you. And furthermore, any reputable attorney will not sign a power of attorney and healthcare power of attorney. Typically, their cutoff for the IQ is 70 or 75 and below. So if your loved one's IQ is in the zone of intellectual disability of 70 or below, or 75 and below with multiple disabilities, most attorneys are not going to sign off on a power of attorney or a healthcare power of attorney, because basically what is assumed is that the child or the adult child has no way of comprehending what they're signing, and they need to be able to know what they're signing. So as always, just like with, you know, your situation is specialized. And so I can't stress that enough. And I kind of give the analogy of like, if you had some heart issues, heart palpitations or heart racing or things like that, you're not going to go see a podiatrist, and you're probably not going to go to your PCP unless you have to go see a cardiologist. You got to go see a specialist that specializes in hearts. And that's the same thing for special needs. So when it comes to attorneys work really hard. They go to school for a very long time. They are highly intelligent, and they do great work. But just as special needs planners, you know, and financial advisors, they're not all created the same. They don't know the same things, same thing as an attorney. So while an attorney can do a guardianship or they can do a special needs trust, it does not mean that they're specialized in that. So we really, really recommend working with a special needs planning attorney when it comes to your documents of guardianship and special needs trust and stuff like that. There's specific language that is necessary in special needs trust to qualify as a trust in the eyes of Social Security. We're happy to make recommendations. Again, on our YouTube channel, all kinds of different attorneys are on there talking about these topics, special needs trust, guardianships, etc. And we do have referrals all over the state for things like this. But a generalist attorney you could pay lots of money and they could accidentally mess your documents up. So that's why it's so critically important. Okay, so one of the questions that we hear all the time, I'm just going to take a pause for a second. Veronica, we got a question.
Yes, we have a question. Can the adult child work and have a paycheck and still get Social Security benefits and Medicare under a parent? So,
yes. And there's different rules for the different programs. Okay, so SSI, you know, basically when they're working under SSI, then their check will be reduced for their earnings. Again, if they earn over $13.10 per month, then that's considered gainful employment, and basically the child isn't disabled. So they can work. At this point, you would want to keep it under the $13.10 per month, but it may need to even be lower, like $1,000 per month, so you don't lose Medicaid. So again, you don't want to lose Medicaid. So that is the key thing. And again, we have that presentation is like working while getting Social Security disability benefits. And so two major documents that are super important. I'm sorry I didn't already mention them. The Social Security Blue Book. Okay, so what that is, you can go out to their website and you can kind of peruse it. It's the Social Security Blue Book, and that's how you can Google it. That is an impairment guide that the Social Security Administration uses. So basically, whatever your child or loved one's diagnosis are, you can look them up in that guide and know what you have to prove to the Social Security Administration for them to be considered disabled. So, you know, it could be under a neurological disorder. It could be, I mean, whatever, look them all up, okay? Because especially if there's, you know, multiple disabilities, and be aware of this. One thing that you can do is go back and request, you know, your PCP's records to see if it clearly paints the picture of what your child's disabilities are before you apply for SSI. I did that. And it was good because there were some mistakes in there, and my physician was able to correct them before I applied for SSI, and they got the record. Okay, so look in the Blue Book, in the impairment guide, and see what it is that you're going to have to prove. There are a lot of disabilities that are just an automatic, you know, like cerebral palsy, Down syndrome. It's kind of a presumptive and it's kind of an automatic. Other ones are not such a slam dunk, and there's a lot of invisible disabilities and other things like that. So you want to be clear that you have all of that documentation. You're going to want names, address, and phone numbers of doctors, diagnosis dates, medication history, etc. So the other important book that I was going to talk about is the Social Security Red Book. The Red Book, if you're thinking about working on RSDI or Social Security Disability, the Red Book is basically telling you about all of the programs, the trial work period. There's a 9-month trial work period. There's all kinds of things. But the Red Book is what you're going to want to download and read it. And I know it's not light reading, but if you can't ever sleep at night, there you have it. But it's a lot of information, and it's really good, and it's going to shed some more light onto working while getting Social Security Disability.
Yes, the last question we have, Allison, can you set up a special needs trust for an adult child with mild disabilities and not on SSI or Medicaid?
So you can, but you might not need to. So it might need to be a different kind of trust. I mean, one could argue that all of us could be considered special needs at some point in our life before we die. Like, we could all have a disability. So yes, you can set up a special needs trust. But if you're not getting SSI or Medicaid, then you might not necessarily need to. But a free consultation, then we can kind of talk through some of those things. But some of it may be wondering, like, why don't you just get that? I mean, if we've paid into the system all of our lives and things like that. So and certainly we're nationally certified as Social Security advisors. I always forget to mention that. But so we can help you navigate some of that stuff. Okay, so who's going to care for your child when I'm gone? Sometimes this is a daunting question. It's very upsetting for some families because they absolutely have nobody. There's nobody else. It's the end of the line. They had no siblings. Their parents are gone. And so this is stressful when you have that situation. You don't have a really good friend or a really good family member or a person that has the capacity. But developing a future care plan now will answer these questions. There are a ton of wonderful, wonderful facilities out there. So we're not saying, okay, institutionalize your child. That's not what we're saying. But there are a lot of really great facilities out there that are either semi-independent living, independent living. Others are more residential. There are programs where they can live there and work in the community. There are other programs that they can go there and get full care, and they could go there when they're 18 and literally they could die there when they're 86. Like, they have like all the whole continuum of care. So, think about these things. And even if you do have a future caregiver, whoever that may be, consider looking at some of these facilities and kind of finding out. We did a residential program webinar, I don't know, it was a couple of months ago, and it was really good because we had members from all kinds of different residential facilities all across the state of Texas that basically said who we are, what we do, who we serve, where we're located, and how much we cost is basically what this webinar was. It was an hour and a half. It was kind of a long one, but it was really, really good. So consider touring some of these facilities. Some of these waiting lists can be 5 years. So you need to be aware of that. And COVID has made it more difficult, not better. Okay. As far as some of the waiting lists are concerned, but don't make that mistake of waiting too long. Maybe your child's care needs are more than what you can handle. Maybe they have become maybe as you're getting older, you can't handle some of the full care needs that are there. Maybe some of the behaviors, they need intervention outside of the home. Whatever it may be, start early, because if you start at 18 or you start at 22 and you want something right here, right now, the answer might be no. The answer might be you're on a waiting list, and good luck with coming up on that. So it doesn't cost you anything to get on the waiting list except for your time to take a tour. A lot of these tours are virtual right now. And when you come up on the waiting list, then it gives you the right to say yes or no. Just because you come up doesn't mean you have to take the slot. But we definitely do that. And then, as always, it is our recommendation to make careful considerations before naming siblings as a future caregiver. So I get family love. We all love each other, and his brother wants to take care of him, et cetera, et cetera. But as I say that, I don't mind responsible siblings being the future trustee if you can't be the trustee of the trust, or the bank is no longer the trustee, to govern care and set up care for that loved one. But think about how you were when you're in your 20s or in your 30s, wherever you are right now. Did you have hopes and dreams? Did you want to graduate college? Did you have career aspirations? Did you want to get married? Did you want to have kids? Did you want to buy a house? I mean, just normal life stuff. Did you want to do that? And if you you know, became saddled with a special needs loved one, would you have been able to fulfill your hopes and dreams? Would you have had strained relationships or other things? So we want to avoid the obligatory yes from the sibling, and we want the sibling to have a loving relationship with their sibling, and not one of stress because of being overwhelmed and things like that. So that's why we say that, and we're not stepping on anybody's toes here. Everybody has thought about that. We want the siblings to be involved, but kind of in a different manner. Okay, so basically when it comes to protecting your benefits, you got to make sure you have the assets in the right buckets. Your assets, the child's assets in the appropriate buckets. Ensure your special needs family member's name is not set up as a beneficiary in any life insurance, investment, or bank accounts. I'm going to say that again. I always repeat it because no matter how many people are on the meeting, somebody has done this, and it's okay, and we're not shaming you. Like basically everybody does this. So basically what happens is you have life insurance, you name your spouse as the beneficiary, and if my spouse is dead and gone, then that's easy. I name my kids equally. Okay, so the fault in this is that if you name your special needs child outright, they're going to get the money outright. They're going to have more than $2,000 in their name, and they're going to disqualify for SSI and Medicaid. So there are ways to fix this. Okay, that's the first reason for a special needs child. The second reason is if you have a child that is under age 18, it's a bad idea to name them as a beneficiary in the life insurance, because if you die, that money's going in trust for them until they turn 18. And you might think, okay, well, that sounds good. But then when they turn 18, they get all of the money, and it's a horrible idea. I know all of our kids are brilliant, but most kids cannot handle large sums of money at the age of 18. So that's where you want to make sure that life insurance is directed to a special needs trust. You also want to ensure well-meaning family members don't leave assets to the named individual as opposed to the third-party special needs trust for the benefit of the special needs child. Grandma and grandpa love your child. They want the best for them. They have some extra money. They want to leave it to them. And so as parents, we have got to coach other family members and explain to them how that could, how to do it correctly. We don't have to get in their business. We can be a liaison in these conversations because we know grandma and grandpa and other family members might keep cards, you know, close to their chest, and that's okay. But it's very, very important that these things are taken care of. If it's not taken care of, then what happens is you basically have to get an attorney, and then you have to get a court order, and you have to get the money redirected to a first-party special needs trust, which has a Medicaid payback. So we'll go into more of that later, but we're going to keep moving in for the sake of time. So for an ABLE account, an ABLE account is under the 529A Act on the IRS code 529A. The beneficiary is the account owner. Income earned is not taxable, and contributions are not deductible, but it does not jeopardize SSI and Medicaid or other public benefits. But there are some, you know, rules about the ABLE account that you definitely need to know. So in an ABLE account, these are accounts that we can help you set up. You can also set them up online. But basically an ABLE account, the disability needed to start prior to age 26. So for SSDI is the disability started prior to age 22, but this is age 26. You can put up to $15,000 a year, 15,000 annually into an ABLE account. If the person isn't working, you can put up an additional $12,490 if the person is working, and it can't be over $100,000 total in the account. So if you have more than $100,000 in the account, if the account grows to more than $100,000, then you will disqualify from SSI and Medicaid. So you always want to make sure that that balance is lower than $100,000. You can take distributions for qualified disability expenses. The cool thing about the ABLE accounts for a special needs loved one. So you've heard of 529Cs. Cs are for college. 529C. This is a 529A. The cool thing about the ABLE account is you can pay for college, you can pay for tutoring, you can pay for higher learning, but you can basically pay for anything that is construed as achieving a better life for an individual with a disability. So there's a lot less restrictions on what you can pay for in an ABLE account as opposed to a 529C. And if you have a 529C for your loved one, that 529C is not going to be accounted against them for SSI. unless they take distributions from it. Okay, so that would be counted against them. The 529C, the beneficiary can be changed to another child that doesn't have disabilities. And furthermore, we can actually convert a 529C to a 529A, but you can only convert $15,000 at a time. So be mindful of that if that's something that you need to do. One important factor that you need to know about the 529A is that there is a Medicaid payback on that. So a first-party special needs trust and an ABLE account has a Medicaid payback. So basically, at your child's death, the state could be able to claim reimbursement for expenses paid by Medicaid. So that's important to know. It's not going to be any more than $100,000 in the account. And one question that we get all the time is, well, why? If I can have an unlimited amount of money in a third-party special needs trust, and I can only have $100,000 in an ABLE account, why do I need both? And so the answer is that you can pay for some things out of an ABLE account that you can't pay for out of a special needs trust. So for instance, one big thing, a big thing is housing and rent and mortgage payments can be paid for out of an ABLE account, and you cannot pay for them out of a third-party special needs trust. So you can pay, again, if it's construed as achieving a better life for an individual with disabilities, you can pay for it out of an ABLE account. But you cannot pay housing, rent, or mortgage payments out of a third-party special needs trust. So these are just some examples of things that you can pay for, but you can use your imagination. Even vacations could be paid for out of an ABLE account because that respite and that time away would be beneficial for your loved one. So here's an example of some of the things that the special needs trust can pay for. And what you'll see at the bottom right-hand corner is that it can buy a house, it could buy real property, but it can't do like the monthly debt service. So basically, the ABLE account can pay for food and shelter, and and SSI is designed to pay for food and shelter. And so here's the variety of things that a special needs trust can pay for. And the special needs trust can send money over to the ABLE account. So like some people, I jokingly say it's all how you play the games. Like, so for instance, my daughter has an ABLE account. Well, we don't keep very much money in the ABLE account on purpose because there's a Medicaid payback on that. We basically only keep enough money in there to cover 1 month's rent. Okay, and then we can replace that as necessary. So a lot of people do it a lot of different ways. There's not a right or a wrong way. It's just knowing that there is a Medicaid payback on the ABLE account. Okay, and so again, here are some things that a special needs trust absolutely can't pay for. And as we talked about it, it's kind of the whole food and shelter adage. Basically, what you see here is food and shelter, and that's what it can't pay for. We have a question, Veronica?
It's about your work. Will you look over a previously prepared special needs plan and help update and maintain?
I'm sorry, could you say that one more time? It cut out at first. I apologize.
Will you look over a previously prepared special needs plan and help update it and maintain it? I mean, they already have a plan, but they wanted you to take over, kind of.
Yeah, that happens all the time. People have other plans that they want us to look at and review, and so we're not big on reining on any great planning that you've already done. So we're happy if you've done some planning so far. Some people have done it many years ago, you know, maybe when the child was small, and now they're kind of transitioning and it's just time to update. But yes, we look at other people's plans all the time, and we're definitely happy to do that. And we're also very, very straightforward of, you know, we don't think you need the plan. Here's what we think you need, you know, like, you know, we can help you this way. And so, and we'll also be very clear if, you know, if the plan is very outdated or there's a lot of other changes or things that we think. And what we like to do is also call it kind of a second opinion. Just like if you had anything major going on, like health-wise, you might go see one, two, and get multiple opinions so you can make an informed decision. And so, we're huge proponents of that. We are, I'm an advocate, if you haven't already heard. I like to, I really like to put information in people's hands so they can make informed decisions and they can feel good about it. The clients that we work with, they know what they have. They know why they have what they have. There's a plan and they're working their plan. And that's what I want for you. So if you don't have a plan and you need a plan, we can help. If you have a plan, but you really don't really know what you have and you just kind of turn it on and forget it with whoever you're working with, then we want you to know. We don't want you to have to do everything, but we want you to have a why behind everything and clarity on how this happens. If you're in a household and there's, two spouses and one spouse handles everything, well, if you're the spouse that doesn't handle everything, or either way, whoever you are, right? The other spouse needs to know, because what if something happens to you tomorrow, or what if something happens to them tomorrow and they handle these types of things? So we clear all those things up. And so that way everybody's clear. And what it gives is a super peace of mind in that category. So we're getting close to time, but we're almost done. So one of the things, and we do have all kinds of college presentations for kids with special needs, but here are some, post-high school options for kids with disabilities. There's all kinds of programs out there. We have multiple webinars on this. Some of them we've had panels with the other schools coming in there, but research these programs early. Know what your plan is. What we don't want to see is your kid leaving the public school at 18 when maybe they should have stayed into 22, or they're leaving at 22 and they're coming home to play video games or sit at the house. What is the next step? Is there a transition program? Is there a certificate program? Is it the Texas Workforce Commission vocational rehab program that will help them be able to get some type of job? So just be thinking about some of those things and check out those webinars on YouTube. As far as, accommodations, you might want to think about some of those things, for SAT, ACT, any kind of accommodations. If they are going to a school, your accommodations, your 504 and your IEP doesn't transfer to the university level or the community college. Colleges do have an Office of Disability. They're not all created equally, but you're going to want to find out early what the requirements are going to be for your child to have accommodations in college. And those accommodations, again, they're going to be critical to their success. So research carefully. Interview the offices of disability and choose wisely with that. My own daughter is a rising senior in college this year, and I felt like a madwoman when we were going through this process with her. We really, really, really looked at the offices of disabilities, and we made a good choice. And she's been at a great school, and she's going to graduate on time. And the Office of Disability has truly, truly been wonderful. But kind of getting to that point or picking out that school, it was just really difficult, and all kids are really different. So check that all out. Reasonable accommodations in the workplace. Again, Texas Workforce Commissions, Texas Workforce Solutions. Some of you may have participated in the Summer Earn and Learn program. There's the vocational rehab. There's all kinds of things out there and help for kids that can work to find gainful employment. Okay, so we've talked about a lot of things. These are some of the things on this screen. We've kind of touched on a lot of them, but we've got webinars on all of these topics, and we'll have future webinars coming up soon. But these are some of the things that should be on your radar, things that you should be thinking about. You can't do everything in one day, and I get that, but we're here to help you and here to help you navigate through some of these things. And so, again, any of the things that are really, really important to you, just prioritize them, kind of put them in order. You can't do everything all overnight, but one super big thing I didn't mention, and I should have, is the child support post 18 being redirected to a special needs trust. This is a huge deal. If you're divorced and you're getting child support for your disabled child, a lot of times in Texas, that child support continues post 18 because the child is disabled. It is super important that you get that child support redirected to a first party special needs trust Because otherwise, if you don't, and the child support is coming in, they're not going to qualify for SSI. It's going to disqualify them for SSI and Medicaid. So you can work with your attorney. Ideally, you and the ex, I mean, you know, you're divorced because you didn't get along, but maybe you can come together for the benefit of the child and just have an agreement, and one attorney draws it up and everybody signs off on it and it's filed with the courts. That's the cheapest way to go about it. And then again, so that child support comes in and it just goes into a first party special needs trust, and then you can pay for the child's care needs out of the special needs trust. But if that doesn't happen, you're going to have eligibility issues with SSI and Medicaid, and most people don't figure that out until they figure out that it's a mistake. So that's super important. We got a question?
One last question. What's the difference between a first party and third party special needs trust?
Yes, that's a great question. So a first party special needs trust is basically the kid's money. So if the kid was in an accident, they have a settlement, okay? The example of my daughter is a scholarship refund. So she was getting a scholarship or a refund, a school grant. That's their money. It's got to go into a first party special needs trust. Child support's got to go into a first party special needs trust. And the main difference is that a first party special needs trust has a Medicaid payback like an ABLE account, and a third party special needs trust does not. So when we're leaving money to our children for their future care in a special needs trust, we want to leave it to a third party special needs trust. Our life insurance proceeds, our savings, our assets that we're going to leave to our kids in the future, we want to leave it to a third party special needs trust because there is no Medicaid payback on that. So that is a great question. Not everybody, it just depends on what attorney you work with. Some attorneys are going to set up a first party and a third party no matter what. Other attorneys are going to set up a third party special needs trust if that's what you need, and not, you know, do the extra expense of a first party trust. So it just depends on your care needs and what kind of money that the child may have coming in, you know, themselves.
Well, thank you so much, everybody, for being here today with us. It's 1 o'clock. And if you have any questions, please email us. You have our contact information in the chat. And thank you so much, Allison, for everything. And you will receive an email with all the presentation of today. So thank you. Thanks
so much, Veronica. Thanks for having us again. And we're happy to help any way we can. We do our free consultations, and you know, whether you need a Social Security analysis or you need a full plan, you need us to help you get you on track. We can definitely help. You know, feel free to reach out. There will be a link in the email that comes out that will have a schedule now button where you can schedule an appointment that's convenient for your, you know, for your calendar. So we're happy to meet with you. Thanks for taking your time to be with us today. Have a great afternoon.